All right, we are live. Hello, 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 everybody. As you come
Hello.
in, we're going to have a really great conversation in regards to very important and exciting project that I'm excited that we're going to start very soon. So, as you come in, I just ask that you share this live, join the conversation. If you have questions, pose them in the chat because we can bring them up. And then also, because this is live stream, it'll save to Facebook, our Instagram, and our LinkedIn. And then if you pose a question later, we can always come back and answer it. So, as you see at the bottom, it says the Southside Reading Empowerment Project is what we are launching tonight and going to talk about. And before we dive into like what this project is, we're going to start with some introductions so you can know who you see on the screen, and then we'll dive right onto our conversation. So I'll kick it off. I am Jurema Gorham. I am the founder, executive director of Burst Into Books. We've been around since 2018, and we provide empowerment, encouragement, just like really amplifying Black storytelling. And we do that in a variety of ways. We do it through community events, school partnerships. We have a brick and mortar in Roseland where we host a variety of workshops and programming that's centered around literacy. And I am a educator through and through. I've been in education since 2008. And so for me, I just feel like educating and just being able to create space for us to thrive in this in when it comes to reading is truly my calling. I love it. I don't look at it as a job. I feel like in anything that I'm doing, I'll be advocating for people's stories to be told and mattered. And so this is something that's really dear to me, and I know we'll dive more into it, but that's a little bit about my background. And so I'm just grateful to be able to now do this work in my organization, just kind of couple with my education, but also my passion and purpose. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Chase so she can go ahead and introduce herself.
Hey, everybody. Yes, my name is Kimberly Chase. First of all, Dorema and I, we became acquainted
Yeah.
through our nonprofits. And as you see, I don't know, maybe you don't see, Dorema is in her nonprofit space right now, working it out, and I'm in a different space. But that's okay because we came back together. My name is Kimberly Chase. I am the director, founder, owner, CEO, CLO of Chase Literacy Learning and Teaching Center. And we have been open here since just since August with our actual brick and mortar. But I've been in the reading space since 1998, and I've been teaching since even before that. I don't even want to talk about it because I look so young. I know,
Well, you good?
but, but yeah. So I'm a at heart, like when people ask me like, "Who are you?" or whatever, I'm a reading specialist. Like in my heart, I look at the world through reading. I look at uh, uh, community conditions through the lens of literacy. So that is what leads me to where I am today. Is that we are attempting to approach a literacy. Hey, Jody, we're attempting to approach a literacy situation that has been going on in the Black neighborhood for a really, really long time, on the South Side of Chicago in particular, for a really, really long time. And I also want to say that we are here because Jurema put out the call and said, we got to do something. She put it out on Facebook. We got to do something. And I was already, so this is what I'm saying. Like, this is our like-mindedness. I was
Mhm.
already thinking that over the Christmas break, I'm going to do something. Like I'm going to, but I was planning on just doing, not just, but doing programming, like reading programming. But when I saw Jurema's call to action, I was like, yeah, like that's what really needs to be done first before we talk about programming. We got to know what we need to do first. And so that was the call to action, which is what we're going to talk about later. But so that's just me. I'm Chase Literacy. I'm happy to be here. Excited. I mean, super excited to be talking about literacy and talking about solving the and I don't even want to say the problem, but solving the issues that we're facing in literacy in the Black community as it regards to literacy right now. So we're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, we are ready. And so I think I'm gonna let you jump off this next part, and you all, as you are watching, please chime in, let us know you're here. If you have questions or comments, put in the comments, because this is truly a community conversation. We'll be sharing resources, sharing our background, sharing how we want to approach this. But really, I want to be able to hear from those who are also parents, educators, community members, who are aunts, uncles, who are like, man, yes, I've been looking for something for my niece and nephews or my grandchildren, or just trying to figure out what they're going to do. And so we're going to start off with what I think was the most important question before we get into anything is, how is reading? How important is reading? Right. And so I'm going to let you kick it off and I'll join in. But just like, why is this such an important topic to be talking about in the first place?
Right. And so we hear it all the time. We hear about the current reading crisis and how important reading is and how low the reading scores are, and different approaches to reading, and different types of teaching reading is wrong and this type of is right. Let me tell you how important reading is. Your child's life choices are being determined by whether or not they are reading on grade level in first grade. The statistics tell us that if a first grader is not reading on grade level by the end of first grade, they have a 0.88 probability. That's a 90% chance of never reading on grade level. They used to determine third grade reading scores. They don't anymore, but they used to determine, use third grade reading scores to determine, to project prison budgets. Like 10 years down the line. They used to do that. They don't have to do that anymore because they just stick everybody in jail now. So they don't have to plan for later reading budgets. But that just tells you how important reading is. Early reading, okay? How important it is to make sure that your children are reading on grade level by the end of first grade. If not by the end of first grade, you better get up to that school and holler and fuss until they are reading on grade level by the end of second grade. Because third grade, it gets even more dire. And that's not because our kids are not capable. That is because the system is not designed to bring them up, to catch them up. It's not designed for that. The system, the reading programming will continue to move on, and whoever's behind will be left behind. And what is happening right now, the statistics tell us, is that, so I did a data dive of the schools around South Shore. And right now, 17%, from the information that I got from the data that I received and was able to analyze, 17% of our children are in the South Shore area, schools from the South Shore area are reading on grade level, okay, are reading at proficiency levels, 17%. So let's go back because that actually means that, what is that, 20, 30, what is it, 27%, 28%, 27%? I mean, I'm sorry, 87% of our children are not reading on grade level.
Yep.
I'm a literacy person, y'all. I ain't no math person.
You said 17 are not, right?
17 are.
17 are. So 83 are
83. 83. Okay, there we go. There we go. 83. So 83%, that's K8. K3. No, I'm sorry, that's not K8. That's 3-8. That's 4-8. Third graders, K3, reading proficiency scores, 13% of them are reading on grade level. 13%. So then that means that 87% are not, right? 87% of our children are not reading on grade level. And this is not atypical. This is very typical of what the scores are around the country for Black children in particular. And we all know it is not because our Black children cannot read. We all know that there are things happening inside of schools, outside of schools, that create these numbers. And what that also tells us is that those third graders who are not reading on grade level, 87%, of those third graders who are not reading on grade level by the end of uh, uh, third grade, they will experience unemployment,
Mm.
low employment, much higher incidences of incarceration, because we talked about that already. The consequences of low reading by the end of third grade, they have a much higher chance of never graduating from high school. The consequences are dire. And I do want to convey this information in a way that puts everybody's hair on fire, because I look at the scores and I look at the data, and people are like, oh my goodness, oh, that's so terrible. Oh my goodness, it's so terrible. When we should be doing everything we can,
Yep.
because 10 years from now, these third graders are going to be doing what?
They're gonna
Okay.
be. They're
Think it's
gonna
bad
be
now?
exactly.
Okay. So we're what we're talking about right now is saving lives. What we're talking about right now is creating the environment for our children, for our communities to thrive. That's what we're talking about right now. And what we want to impress upon you as parents, as grandparents, as and uncles, is that when you see those reading scores low right now, you have to do something
Yep.
immediately. And we're here to offer some help.
And
Mhm.
what just what sticks out to me is like how important is reading. I think that what is, to your point, like it's going to impact the livelihoods, it's going to impact all these things. But I also think that it's so important that we understand that we all play a role, right? And so I think a lot of times when I'm talking to parents and I'm talking to other educators, I think about, even the way we grew up, and what is the way that we be able to understand the importance of reading. Like reading is such a life skill. It's not just
Right.
something in the classroom, it's not just for tests. And so
Yes.
just everyone plays a role. And I think that the which we'll talk about with this call, like how important is reading, I believe is important that it isn't just in the hands of the schools.
Hmm.
Like
Right.
that's how important it is to me. I believe that everyone who has an interaction with a child is responsible for their capabilities to be able to read. I also believe the same is true for adults, because when we think about it, there are a number of adults who also struggle with reading, that struggle with comprehension, that struggle with these skills. And again, it's because of all the different factors that are also impacting our children. So I think when we have this conversation, a lot of times the fingers are always pointed to the schools.
Hmm.
And I believe that there are some true reform and things that need to happen within the schoolhouse.
Right.
And there are choices of curriculum that's not working. There's all the different things, right? But there's also a level of accountability that we have to all own when it comes to
Absolutely.
this. And so, and I know that not every parent feels equipped to be able to take on that call. I
Right.
know that churches and organizations don't feel always equipped. But I think that's when, and I always speak to this about a village mindset when it comes to any problem we're trying to tackle in our community, is unlikely that you're going to be able to do it in silos, that the schools are going to handle it and everybody else just do what they're doing. Like, no, we need to be able to equip all of us to be able to have a hands-on approach. And
Mhm.
whatever you doing at home, that could be reinforced that you learn from the schools. And I mean, even I was talking to someone who does like Bible study at school. I'm like, even that is helping kids understand comprehension, like analyzing the scripture, writing it down. What does it mean to you? How are you going to apply it in your everyday? What are examples of that you see? You may not think it's a traditional classroom setting, but the kid is like visualizing these words and trying to understand how it applies to them. And so, yes, Sunday school teacher, you have responsibility when it comes to reading as well. When
Right.
you're a coach, you're trying to help them understand the plays and all these different things. Listening, being able to, when I think about all the things, reading and writing is a part of it, but like listening and communicating as well. So
Mhm.
you play a role as well. How are you emphasizing that your players are doing what they need to do? I think that how important it is. I think is that important that there's nothing you should be doing that doesn't integrate reading.
Absolutely.
Like it's that important. Everything you do, you should have a conversation about how is reading going to be a part of it. And so
Yes.
I think we've set the data, we've talked about the urgency of it, but also I think this is where it comes to why we started this project, like the call to action.
Right.
So I was actually, I'm gonna tell you what inspired this to come on me. So I was at a mompreneur event that a really good friend of mine's Ariel hosted. She honored 100 mompreneurs, and she did a night of just like honoring their legacies and just like the work that they're doing. And at this event, they spoke of a young woman who has now recently passed, who her work was rooted in like aviation, and her name was Tam. And I didn't know her personally, but once she passed, I realized so many people in my life were connected to her, and to the point where I'm just like, wow, very much so blown away by the impact she had in this short time that she was alive. She had a very quick, she had cancer, and it moved very quickly, right? And so it really shifted, and just seeing everyone's posts, everyone's talking about legacy, talking
Mhm.
about legacy, and talking about legacy, and really we're getting honored, you know, for all these different things we do. But if it's not building a legacy, if it's not poured into the next generation, like what is it for?
Mhm.
Right? You know, we all in there in our 40s, 50s, whatever age, 30s. And yes, we have businesses, yes, we're educated, yes, we all these things, but we should not be doing it for us.
Right.
We should be doing it for the people that's under us. And so
Absolutely.
I left there feeling like, man, you know, I always keep that on my mind anyway. Like this work is not for me, right?
Mhm.
It's about what's gonna happen when I leave, and you already hinted towards that. And so I immediately start thinking about. I've already been having conversations just about the state of schools and just like reading scores, because it's so close to the work I do. And when I come across families and kids who can't read, and for various reasons, it's like, okay, how do we go about it? And so also, we know our school system currently is going through a lot, the school board, you know, budget. I mean, so many different things have our kids current state in limbo. And I just felt like we we yes have a lot of issues. We got politics, we got funding, we got all these different barriers that are trying to come up. But what we can own is what we do in our own homes and what we do in our own spaces. Like they can make whatever mandate, whatever they want in the schools, but they don't control my storefront.
Mhm.
They
Right.
don't control my home. They don't control the kids that I have impact with. So at the end of the day, if a child is around me, they're gonna read and they're gonna see themselves from what they read. And the parents are gonna learn about how they can help their child. And I'm going to make sure they see themselves in what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And the school partnerships that I have, I'm gonna still come in and do the work that we can do. Like it's a lot of barriers, but I'm not gonna let that be a barrier for me to do a life that I want to live a legacy with, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, even if it was just helping this one child who
Mhm.
was on the path of not understanding, you know, whether or not they were going to be successful in school, and we were able to change the trajectory of that one child, and I feel like we've done our job. But I feel like we have so many brilliant people in our village that we can do 20 children, 40 children, 50 children, which in turn is going to impact these schools and impact these families. And
And
so,
and their futures.
and their
And
future, right?
and
And the future,
future
to
of
their
these
point,
families,
to their
their
point.
children, their grandchildren. Talk about generational wealth. It doesn't exist unless you uh, can read and write.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't exist unless you are a prize fighter or whatever, which nobody is. Few people in the world or whatever.
And so then when I started thinking about what the call is, I'm like, I know, like firsthand, I'm sure you can think of like countless children that if you are very intentional in like giving them the support and the resources, like so I ended my career in the classroom in the high school level. So I had high school students that came to me reading on like third grade level, fifth grade. I mean, so when people were so shocked at these statistics, I'm like, look, this is the work we were doing all the time.
Mhm.
But I've also seen kids before they graduated, we had them reading and they were understanding and they were comprehending to the point that they're able to now have different trajectory for what they're going to do in their lives. And so I know it's possible. And so that's when I was like, we should do diagnostic tests, because I knew part of the problem is that you can't speak to what you don't know.
Mhm.
And parents, some people, they just know, like, I don't know, my child is 6 and they just don't know how to read.
Right.
My child is 9 and they don't comprehend what they're writing, and I don't know what to do, and I've got them a tutor, or they just don't understand what their next steps are. And so I'm like, first, knowledge is power, because then you have parents are able to advocate for their child. Absolutely. And they're able to make educated decisions, not just, I heard this is a reading program, I'm gonna put them in it, or I bought a workbook, hopefully that helps. Like, no, we are targeting what the areas are that they need support in. And then parents, this is a non-judgment zone, because me and Kim were talking about this earlier. I'm not expecting parents to be reading specialists.
Right.
If you didn't go to school for it, if you didn't even, learn, like, it's hard to, people don't realize how hard being a teacher is, because you have to, it's like, I just know how to do it. I don't know how to help somebody else do it, So it's a skill. It's why you go to school. It's why you do all the things. And so that's why, and on top of doing a diagnostic test, how do we empower and give parent strategies as well? So it's not just giving your kids a test, but it's also being able to provide workshops for parents and being able to give you the resources and things that you need. And so I'm going to have Kim dive deeper into what this first round of our project is going to entail. But really, this is the call of action. Like, how do we come together as a village to correct a problem? Because we are not helpless.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, we hear these statistics and it's like, oh my goodness. Right. What's going to happen? Like, we're not helpless. We're not, our backs against the ropes. Like, we punching back, right? So how do we punch back in these different ways to make sure that we're working, even if it's just on the South side right now, to change what's happening. So I'll give it to you to talk a little bit more about what this first round is and what does it look like.
If I can go back a little bit.
Yeah.
The powerlessness, which I understand. I've had parents come to me and I don't know what to do. I think something is wrong with my child, and I got him reading in about a month. But that powerlessness, let me remind everybody of something. Our ancestors had way less than we have right now. They had way less. And they did so much more with what they had because they knew, they kept their eyes on what was important. They kept their eyes on the prize, which was literacy. Right after, during Reconstruction, right after slavery, the first thing our ancestors did was set up schools and teach reading. And the literacy rates, because before it was illegal, remember, and then the literacy rates shot up from 11%. I'm about to get the numbers wrong, but from 11% to 60-something%. Okay. So that, and to move a little bit further into what Jurema was talking about, how this takes a village, and what we need to be thinking about is more than how it impacts us right now. Think about those ancestors. And I think about this all the time. It gives me chills every time I think about it, about how our ancestors, they made choices. They did things and made choices knowing they would never see the results of them. They were doing things and making sacrifices for people they would never see. And they knew that. Yeah. And so when we think about and talk about what we can be doing for our children right now, oh, they're such a mess. It's nothing we can do for them. What we need to be thinking about is what we can do for them right now, and then what we are doing for the future generations. And so that is building that legacy of village care, of making sure that you are taking care of your village, because that's one thing I will say that we have moved away from. Yeah, but we better get our behinds back to it. Because nobody is coming to save us. Nobody's coming. We're going to have to save ourselves. So what we, Jurema and then I have come up with is the South Shore. Let me make sure I got it right now. South Shore Reading Empowerment Project. I'm sorry, South Side Reading Empowerment Project. And so Jurema over there on her South Side section, and I'm over here on a different South Side section, but all the South Side. Everybody knows what we mean when we say South Side anyway.
Right.
And in this first round, we are offering free diagnostic assessments. free diagnostic reading assessments.
Yeah.
And so what we plan to do is to have, and they are free, but just hold on, okay? So we plan to have parents or inviting parents to sign your children up for kindergarten through third grade students only for this first round. We will implement some later rounds where we will be assessing still K through 3, but older grades too, the higher grades too. And so if you have a child who is struggling, we want this to be targeted towards children who are struggling. So you either know that they are struggling from, what you can hear them reading or whatever, or you kind of guess that they're struggling, or your reading scores, like the reading assessments that you're getting back from schools, are indicating that they are struggling. Like if you see a lot of red, that's not a good sign. And so for your kindergarten through third grade students, you will sign your child up for on our registration form for a free diagnostic assessment that will take place January 26th and 27th. And
December 26th.
I'm sorry, December 26th. Thank you, Jurema. December 26th and 27th, and January 2nd and 3rd. So that's the Thursday and Friday of that holiday break, of that Christmas break that we're coming up on. And so, you will sign your child up, and we will give the assessments, give you a report of the findings of that assessment. And in that report, there will also be instructional implications, or like next steps for your child's teacher. So you're getting a lot. I mean, this is really important information. And I think it's important for us to have conversations about what's in the report with parents, so that you can know how to make your next decision. Like, with this information, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to the school and, ask for, extra support? Or are you going to think about some programming with one of our organizations? Or are you going to get your child tutoring with one of our organizations or another organization that may not be invested in your child the way that we are? But so that's basically what it looks like. So again, K through 3, December 26th and 27th, January 2nd and 3rd, you can sign your child up for for a free reading diagnostic assessment for those days. If you have a child who is older, 4th grade through 8th grade, or I don't know if we're doing high school, but definitely 4th through 8th, you can still sign your child up right now, and then we'll contact you regarding the later dates that will come for those particular assessments for those grade levels of children.
Yes. And so a couple of things I want to add is that when you sign up, there will be a $30 deposit, but that deposit will be refunded back to you when you come to the diagnostic.
Right.
The purpose for that is because we really want to make sure that families are intentional and serious about signing up their kids. We will be volunteering our time. We have a whole roster of other reading specialists who have signed up to help with this. Thank you, Brenda. I just saw your post. She's a literacy coach. She wants to support. And so we want to make sure that if a time is booked, that the child comes. Yes. And then also we're able to make sure we make the most of that time. So yes, you will put a $30 deposit down, but we are going to refund it. And it's just for the purposes of making sure that if a child, because we have limited slots, right? So we don't want to have that a slot was taken and then the child doesn't come, but we also had a family who could have come in that spot. Right. So we really want to emphasize that part. And then also, I do want to emphasize that after we do these tests, we will be continuing with programming and workshops. And I do think that you should be choosing us to be able to support, because I think it matters who is also a part of the intervention piece. Absolutely. And I think a lot of times our kids are being in the cracks and forgotten because of that part, right? And then we think about all the different ways we want to reform our communities. They're like, oh, mental health, you should look for a Black therapist. When it comes to doctors and fertility, I was just talking to my friend earlier who's pregnant, and she's like, I'm very intentional about finding me a Black doctor, right? It's reasons behind these things, right? And I don't think it's because we're like, oh, it's only Black only, but I believe we understand first of all, some of the challenges that are coming along with this diagnostic.
Yep.
So there are some outside factors that we know play a part, but then also it's just about being able to know that there's going to be true care towards your child and towards your family, and understanding how we're working together. I think that also mindset matters. You can have the expertise and not necessarily have the same mindset and values going into the work.
Right.
And that matters as well, right? You want someone who's not just looking at the data and looking at your child as a number, but they're looking at their humanity
Yes.
and caring about what happens when they leave their space and
Right.
when they go back home. And how can we actually build relationship and not just a transaction, right? And so that is why I believe that when we do share in our conglomerate, like who's tutoring and who's doing programs and who's doing enrichment, that you should first prioritize the women and men who are going to be a part of this project, because we are all value aligned and while we're doing this work. So I put the link in the chat. I also will put it in the description of this video to make it easy for people to register. When you register, we will follow up with how you can do that down payment, and then we will schedule you for your time. Again, it's starting with K-3, but we will do other grade levels, and say your K-3 misses this round, maybe they could be a part of the next round. But we want to just make sure that we get the word out before we get out on break, right? And so that people can be intentional about planning this out. So the goal of the project, right, is that kind of like we keep saying, like it's for us. It's for us to save us. It's for us to be able to be intentional about helping families. And we are not helpless. We are going to change the trajectory. It's so this actually makes me think about recently, within the last few months, Kim, I've been thinking a lot about Marva Collins. And I actually saw a documentary of hers. I mean, it's like the science researcher in me. Like once I get fixated on something, I'm like, I'm digging in and I'm reading about it. I'm looking at I'm looking at videos, interviews, books, all the things. Yeah. And so in the spirit of like, how do we save us? She became such a forefront in my mind. I was like, I need some Marva Collins energy coming up in me, right? And so if you don't know who Marva Collins was,
oh my goodness, yeah,
I guess get not. She was the epitome of we are gonna save us. She was a parent, and educators like, look, this is not helping, it's not doing. I'm gonna start my own. And she was able to change. Like the documentary that I saw, it interviewed like the kids once they were adults. So the kids that she actually was teaching on the West Side, and like they would show like how they came and how they left and what that impact did on them as adults. Like when I'm talking about changing the trajectory of families, like kids who came in there, left, like were about to get kicked out of their school, and with behavioral problems.
Some of them were kicked out.
I mean, many were kicked out. I mean, had learning disabilities. She had them in there reading like the classics, like second and third graders, and like, no, I don't. You can do this. They fell into. I mean, it was like, what? Huh? And these babies said it like, if I never had her in my life, I don't know what would have happened to me. Because they looked at what their parents and what their uncles and all them around them was doing. Like, this is the heart of the West Side. They like, look, if we never met her, I know I would not be a lawyer today.
Right.
I know I would not be an accountant. I know that I would not have started this youth organization if it wasn't for her. Like, she literally changed these kids' lives.
Yes.
And that is what I'm talking about. You think something small about helping a baby read is very minute, but you open a world to them.
Never. Yeah, it's never
they thought they could never possess.
Right.
You gave them critical thinking.
Right.
Where when they're in their peers, they're like, look, I can't do that because I got purpose. You know, like she will say that, like, you are brilliant. Like, you are a genius. If the one boy said, I didn't do it because that's not what geniuses do. Okay. My friends were out here about to go smoke. I'm like, that's not what a genius would do. Like, it changed how they viewed themselves. Like, I don't do that. That's not what I choose to do, but they didn't have that mindset before. So that's why I say it's bigger than just being able to read. It's about mindset and values and what you're pouring into these children as well. And so Brenda said I met her years ago. She was a powerhouse. I bet I would have like you talk about like fanning out. I would have been like, oh my God, love that was the kind of people I go crazy about, right?
Mhm.
Like people who are really and who have a legacy that's beyond. And we talking about Department of Education stuff now. They were trying to get her to be the Secretary of Education. She
Right.
was
She
no,
said no, right.
no, right? And it's just like because of just how much her impact was. So
Right.
I say that to say that it matters, you all, and I
Yes.
hope that you are seeing the purpose and how we can be that for ourselves and we can save for ourselves. And so,
And Jurema, before you go there,
mhm,
I thank you for bringing her up because that was the book I read. I'm gonna tell you the year in
mm,
1992.
mm,
I said I'm gonna be that kind of. That's what I'm going to be. That's what kind of teacher I'm going to be. I read the book. You have to send me the documentary because I
I
haven't
am, I
seen that.
will.
But oh my goodness, I'm so excited to even see it because and just about maybe a week or two ago, we were talking about Marva Collins. Me and somebody. Was it you? Me and
No, no.
okay, then it was
I
somebody
think
else.
her spirit, her energy
Okay,
is
so the spirit
moving
of
through the
Marva Collins
land.
is all up and through here, and one aspect of her work that I want to bring out, in addition to everything that you just talked
Mm-hmm.
about, Dreama, was her. And the second time I've mentioned this to you already, Dreama, is her tenacity. Like we can't give up. We can't give up. So you can't give up on your child, and accept what the school says about your child because once upon a time, Marva Collins said that school is a lie. We can do and say and have the same perspective as that. We're doing it. We're
Yeah,
already doing it.
we
So
are. We're already doing it.
are we doing it?
And so if you are watching, because I do see different, like it's showing me views of people who's in here. If you have questions, this will be the time to ask. If you have a question about like how we're going to do the project, if you have comments, if you're things you want us to consider. Also, if you watch the replay, again, we can see the comments later. Feel free to put it in. Um, but I think that as we keep saying, like I'm just one of those people that it's I just don't believe it's impossible.
No way.
And you got to be able to you got to have that kind of faith in the work or
Right.
why you're doing the work in the first place, and so I think that some of the things that I want to incorporate, we talk about, I think it's bigger than like our kids don't like to read and all those different things. A lot of times what I have noticed is that one, just like in anything, like it's something about being in a space and you feel as if, do I belong in this space?
Mhm.
Not being able to read, not being able to comprehend feels very isolating. It
Absolutely.
feels very, I mean, you don't want to speak up. You don't want, you're fearful of like how you're going to show up and how you're going to be perceived. And so that is why also I believe it's important to do these diagnostics and who's doing it, because you want to do it in care. This is
Right.
a very vulnerable thing, right? It's very vulnerable for a parent to say like, my child is struggling in reading
Right.
and
Yeah.
I don't know what
That's
to
important.
do. And I would love for your support to help. So I want to acknowledge that as well. And it also is very vulnerable for a child, because I have seen a number of kids who, I mean, while they are doing it, they feel away. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's saying. So it's going to be important that we see that this is a long-term relationship as well, because once you start, you got to be able to see it through. And
Right.
so that's the other reason why I said it's great, right? Maybe you do have already something in place that's going to support your baby, but you want to make sure that it's all aligned, because your child is going to open themselves up, and you want to make sure that when they're open, that they stay open,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't get to a place where then they feel judged. They feel like they can't be a part of it. They already don't know what's going on. Maybe they're seventh grade and they don't understand and they already feel embarrassed. So it's a variety of things. And then parents as well. I know there's a number of parents. And so I've actually reached out to some people and like, hey, we need some like adult education folks, because there may be some parents that are like, I also struggle with reading. So
Right.
that is why my child struggles with reading. That's
Right.
why we don't have a literacy rich home, because
Right.
it's just something I'm intimidated about as well. Just being able to have a space that you all feel comfortable to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to put that out there as well. So if you're watching this, we understand that it
Absolutely.
it, it comes with a level of vulnerability to even sign up in the first place. but do know that you are coming to a space where people care. And
Mm-hmm.
we really want to make sure that you see that and you know that, and that we are doing this because we want to help and we want to be a part of the solution.
Right.
Yep. So it says it's possible I experienced that with those I coach. So Bretta's saying she experienced that as well. So um, I think we are coming to our end. So if there are no questions or no comments from those who are watching, I just want to say again, I'm excited to launch this project. Kim will be posted on her page. I'll be posting on mine. I also will be emailing it out to the families we work with. And again, this is for our struggling readers,
Right.
right? We
Right.
will have things, we do have things for those who are excelling in reading, need to be pushed further. But we want to be able to catch the ones who the statistics are saying are not going to progress.
Yes. Who they will not do well in life
Mm-hmm.
if they do not get the help that they need in reading.
Yep. So we want to be a part of the plan of like, no, we're being proactive about
Right.
this, not
Right.
reactive,
Right.
and we want to be able to help as early as we can. So we're starting with K-3, kindergarten to third grade, and then we will get to the older grades, but we want to start first with
Right.
this group. So I'll put the link, like I said, in the caption. We'll email it out. But please sign up. Please sign up. We look forward to working with your families. Any last words you want to give, Kim, before we close out?
Well, do we want to give emails in case they want
Yeah.
to contact us via email just for any questions? Because I don't want to limit this to just the project that we're doing right now. Because as you can hear, we're not just only talking about this project. This project is a jumping off point to the rest of the work that we're going to be doing, being very intentional and about targeting the needs of our community, and not like we haven't been doing that,
Mm-hmm.
but I can appreciate now the partnership that we are establishing in and keeping that focus on being intentional. Um, it's hard to keep that focus when you want to eat, when you need to eat. It's hard to keep that focus, but so we are focused now, and I do want parents to know, and thank you, Jurema, for continuing to appeal to the humanity of our parents. Because I'm really technical, y'all. Jurema's gonna have to be that person who, because I acknowledge it, like I know, but I never think about like really, saying it, because I'm like, what about them scores though? Let's get. So I think that that's a good partnership also,
Mm-hmm.
but I acknowledge that these are parents that we have the offspring of parents who have also been traumatized by our school system. And so that vulnerability in being able to say, my child needs help, in part because I didn't do well in school either, and this is what I expect from them. We need to move away from that mindset, because one thing is not only because of where you are as a parent in terms of your literacy achievement or whatever. It's not only because of that. It is also because these schools doing the best that they can, but they are not doing the best job of teaching our kids how to read. Let me just, I'll just say that. And so, so I acknowledge that as well. And always, I think the bigger picture being that we are about community advancements, Black community advancements, and Black community building. And so if we wanted to look different, we have to do some different things. So join us in doing some different things.
Yes, yes, yes. So, just like the link, we can say our emails, but I also will post them
Okay.
in the top as well, and we can email them out. So I can say my email is Jurema@burstintobooks.org. So if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to email me again. That's Jurema, Jurema @burstintobooks.org. Again, I will put it up in the caption. and then I will give it to Dr. Chase.
And my email is info@chaseliteracy.com.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for watching the replay. We look forward to working with you and your families. Again, we are what we need. We are the answer. We are going to tackle this one child, one family at a time. And again, this is just the beginning of a movement. So if you have ideas, if you want to support, whether donating your time, donating financially, if you want to donate additional spaces where we can host this, if you are an educator who've done this work, just like Brenda reached out and you want to join us, let us know. Because again, I don't think we cannot have enough hands, enough investment in tackling this work. So you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will give you updates very, very soon.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody. Thank you for your time.